Hello dearest friends, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. I'm going to do a new trope recommendation video for you today where I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things in life, basically. I did a trope recommendation with the same trope last year, but I just have read so many books in the meantime that include this trope that I decided to do one more. It's the foodie romance trope where we're talking about books that center on some kind of restaurant, bakery, cafe, personal chef, someone who does some kind of hobby cooking. So in general, just characters that have food front and center for them within the book. And I just have so many good recommendations for this trope that I decided to do one today and just share it with you. And I'm actually going to link up in the cards the other video that I did, because I think I recommended in that one maybe 8 or 10 books. And then today I have another 12 books that I'm going to show you that you can add to your TBR if you haven't read them yet. So you'll have plenty of books to choose from out of the 2 videos that I'll have on my channel. And without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and dive in because there is plenty of books to talk about here. A couple of the books that I'm going to share today are quite popular, so you may have heard of them or you may have read them even, but I'm still going to mention them because they're really favorites of mine as well. The first one being a popular book from last year. It's The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This book involves 2 characters, one of them being in the publishing industry. That's our heroine, Clementine. And then, by the way, he calls her Lemon, so I'm just going to stick to Lemon with this review. So Lemon, our heroine, she's in the publishing world and she inherits this apartment from one of her close relatives who comes to pass. And it's a bit of a magical apartment because it lets her travel into the past. And when she's in the past, she meets our hero. His name is Ewan. He is an aspiring chef within that timeline. He very much from the start gets under the heroine's skin, and they definitely hit it off and they have plenty of conversations, plenty of things that they do together. Mostly he's cooking for her and then they really get close very fast. But once she is in the present timeline, she doesn't know of him. Or at least she doesn't know him in real life. She just has the memories of him in the past timeline. And she's like, oh my God, I'm falling in love with someone that is in the past and I don't know how to get him into the future. But the interesting thing is, because she's in publishing in the present timeline, she gets the opportunity to do a bid to get to work with a very famous chef to publish his cookbook. And lo and behold, it's Ewan, but then they have a very different dynamic when they meet in the present timeline. So it's such an interesting read, and the food component within the book is very front and center because our hero is obviously a chef and it's really front and center in his life. This is his passion. This is what he wants to succeed in life. So it's quite a good one. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. If you haven't picked it up, it's definitely worth the read. Next up, I'm going to talk about a book that is part of a series that is very popular, but I feel like it doesn't, or at least it hasn't gotten as much love as book 1 and 2. I'm talking about Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison. It's part of the Love Light Farms series. Everyone loves book 2. I know about that in the weeds, and everyone also loved the first book, Love Light Farms, when it came out, but I haven't heard very many people talking about Mixed Signals, and I really love that book. It's a very rare kind of book where you have 2 characters who are both sunshiny characters. That does not really come across, or at least I haven't come across it very often. Usually it's grumpy sunshine, and in this book just both of the characters are such sweethearts and you just root for them to get together. We've got our heroine who owns the bakery at the Love Light Farms place, or the small town where Love Light Farms is situated. And the hero, Caleb, he has had a thing for our heroine for a very long time. He comes to the bakery, he just tries to find any kind of excuse to get to the bakery to see her. While she's completely oblivious to his feelings. She is attracted to him, but she kind of has a rule that she doesn't want to date anyone from the small town that she lives in. So Basically, she doesn't really give him the time of day. At the same time, both of them have been failing at dating. So basically, they strike a deal that they're going to try to date each other kind of in a fake way, so that they kind of figure out what is going wrong when they're dating other people. But at the same time, obviously, because they're dating each other, they catch feelings. And yeah, she owns the bakery and she's very popular for the creations that she makes. So again, the food component within the book is quite front and center in this one, so I really like that. It's a very wholesome, very sweet, very low angst kind of book, but I really enjoyed it and I hope that you will too if you haven't picked it up. Next up, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite books of last year. It's actually my favorite book of last year. It's Caught Up by Tomforde. This book is not only a foodie type of book because our heroine Miller is a professional chef, it's also a sports romance because the hero is a baseball player, our baseball daddy Kai. He's also a new dad to baby boy Max and he's looking for a nanny. And through certain circumstances, Miller, while she's a professional chef, she needs a break from her career. She goes to meet up with her dad, who is the baseball team's coach, and he proposes that for a little while she helps Kai with the nannying job. So it's a nanny romance, it's also a foodie romance, it's a sports romance. There is plenty of goodness within this book. I absolutely loved it. And the food aspect within the book is also very front and center because while Miller is taking a break from her professional career, she's kind of looking for inspiration to continue on with her projects once she finishes her nannying job with Kai. And she is doing some cooking together with baby Max, which is absolutely adorable. And he also takes her out on a date at a certain point within the book that very much involves her getting inspiration for her chef's job. So yeah, there's plenty of goodness when it comes to the foodie aspect within the book, and I absolutely love this book. If you haven't gotten it by now, because I've talked so much about this book by now, but really, if you haven't picked it up, please do. The next book I'm going to talk about doesn't have the foodie aspect really front and center to it because it's a very emotional book, so a lot of other tropes are more of a focal point within the story. The book is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. We have two characters within this book, Josiah and Yasmin, who have been married for a long time, but they have recently divorced. However, they both own a restaurant together and they're still business partners, as well as they have kids together, so they are co-parenting. So we have a second chance romance within this one, and we also have a situation of Josiah, because I think they were married for quite a long time, but they divorced like 2 years ago. So he is ready to start dating because he needs to get over the relationship that he was in. So he starts dating his newly appointed chef within the restaurant, and we definitely see that Yasmin is not ready for him to move on. So she is kind of really looking for a way to either move on herself or really make a decision of, do I want him back and should I work for it to get him back? So it's a more emotional book. We do have a lot of scenes within the restaurant. We have a lot of talk about the restaurant business itself because they're business partners. However, the cooking within this book is not a front and center theme or front and center aspect within the book. However, I really enjoyed it. I definitely would recommend it, and yeah, please pick this one up as well. The next book I'm going to talk about is an oldie but a goodie. It's Marriage for One by Maise. This book was really popular a couple of years ago. It involves our hero and heroine Jack and Rose from Titanic. We have our hero who is a billionaire. He is very much a very stoic grump, while our heroine Rose is very much a sunshiny character. She really has her dream to open up this cafe where there are these baked goods as well within the cafe, and because of certain circumstances they come to this agreement to do a marriage of convenience, and he helps her start up this cafe. So they're doing the renovations, and all the while she's trying to get him to try out new stuff within the book, so new kind of baked goods, and he is definitely the kind of person who just doesn't eat that kind of food. So it's really endearing to see him do it for her and really really fall in love with certain like sweets. So yeah, I really like that within the book. It's a very slow burn situation within this book. It's quite a long book, so bear that in mind. But if you really like the slowest of slow burns, this one is it for you. Next up, we've got a book by Karla Sorensen. It's Baking Me Crazy. This book is an interesting one because it features representation for a heroine who is in a wheelchair, and she works at this cafe where she actually is aspiring to open up her own bakery. And she has a romance with her best friend. It's a very interesting one as well because the best friend has always had feelings for the heroine. He has been a pining hero for forever, but at the same time, he just wants her to succeed in life. So he's very much her support system and her like cheerleader at everything. And he doesn't want to ruin their friendship, as is the case in most cases of friends to lovers situations. So it's been a while for me with this book, but I think he wanted to be a basketball player, but something went wrong and he became a physical therapist, which is amazing within the context of the book that he helps her out with her like physical therapy. And yeah, it's a very interesting book. I think I really loved it because it really showed the heroine's passion for not wanting to let her disability rule her life. Like, she wanted to get to the point where she is an owner of this bakery, and she just wanted to do it all on her own. She was very independent and almost didn't want help from anybody else. And I really appreciate that within the book, the representation for that. So it's an interesting read. Please go ahead and check it out and add it to your TBR. Next up, we've got a book that is very heavy on the foodie trope. It really is all about the food within this book. The book is called Battle Royale by Lucy Parker, and it features our heroine Sylvie and our hero Dominic. The two of them have really a lot of bad blood between them because they used to participate in this reality TV show, like a baking show, where she was a contestant and he was a judge. And I think like on the finale of this competition, she presented some kind of work and he was very harsh with his criticism towards it, or something happened that just really brought bad blood between them on this finale. And then a couple of years later, she has opened up her own bakery. He is also within the business, and the two of them will need to compete to win this competition to create a wedding cake for the royals. So it's an interesting one because there's definitely a lot of heavy competition between them. At the same time, they at some point start to really communicate and help each other out with certain things. So there is definitely a hate to love situation going on here. It's a bit of a slow burn as well. And again, the foodie trope is just present front and center within this book. So if you love that, go ahead and check this one out. The next book is another slow burn. I don't know if I chose them on purpose or whether all of the books that feature a foodie trope that I've read lately are slow burns, but this one is Make It Sweet by Kristen Callihan. The book centers on a hero who used to be a hockey player but got injured, and a heroine who is a very popular actress but has been cut off from the TV show that she used to work for, kind of like a Game of Thrones kind of show. So both of them are at the moment in between their next steps within their future, and they get together at this mansion where his grandmother is the owner of the mansion, and she kind of through family friends gets invited to stay at this mansion. So the two of them have this forced proximity situation going on. He loves to cook. I think like his granddad passed on his passion for cooking to his grandson, and he loves to cook for everyone within the house, but he definitely is a grump, so he doesn't want anyone to kind of acknowledge his efforts within the kitchen. So she actually doesn't know that he's the one cooking within this mansion, and he definitely wants to impress her by kind of figuring out what her favorite foods are and always like sending up breakfast baskets for her. So it's like a lot of show of small gestures involving food to show her that he likes her, even though he's like the biggest grump and she's a sunshiny character. I think that's also the big appeal within the book, that he is such a reluctant hero and she kind of makes him break out of his shell. So this one is so adorable. It's again a slow burn, so if you like one of those, again, this one is a perfect pick for you. Next up, I've got a couple of books that I just recently read, so I'm kind of really hyped about them because I really enjoy them. The first one being Tastes Like Shakkar by Nisha Sharma. This is the second book within, I'm not sure what it's called, that series, but the first one was Dating Dr. Dill, and this one is the second book where we're focusing on Bobby and Benjamin Bunty. The two of them have a hate to love relationship because she is a wedding planner. He owns a restaurant that is very, very popular. And at the start of the book, we find out that she wanted to have his restaurant cater this very big event that she was supposed to, like a wedding that she was supposed to host, but he declined, and she basically lost the client because of that. So she hates his guts. And then at the same time, he definitely has a thing for her, so he kind of wants to be in her good graces. So the two of them are tasked with working together towards their best friend's wedding, because she's a wedding planner and he is supposed to cater the food. And the two of them need to work together while they definitely have this banter going on, this hate to love relationship. And the foodie aspect within this book is amazing because, again, we get this kind of a cultural introduction within the Indian cuisine and the Indian traditions, which I absolutely loved. And Bunty basically cooks for her a lot of things that he wants to incorporate within the wedding, and she cannot cook for the life of her, but he kind of wants to get her into cooking. So there's so many amazing things within this book that I love when it comes to the foodie aspect, and also the book itself. The romance is just great. There are some BDSM elements within this book that I absolutely loved, and there are some kind of like the conflict within the book involves long distance relationship, which I really love how it was handled. I really am so happy that I picked this book up, and I definitely would recommend it. Next up, I have a really short novella by Rilzy Adams. The book is called 8. It's a very spicy novella. It's like 60 or 70 pages, so it's really short but really amazing. We've got our heroine who just recently had this very big business accomplishment that she wants to celebrate together with her best friend. So she decides to hire a personal chef to come to her house to cook for the two of them. But then at the last moment, her best friend, because she's a doctor, she got a cold on this kind of an emergency. So it was only the heroine and the personal chef who were left together in this apartment, and they start to get to know each other while he's cooking for her. They have an immediate attraction, and the foodie aspect is just chef's kiss within this book because it gets incorporated into the spicy times, if you get what I mean. So I definitely would recommend this one. The next book is another recent read of mine. It's The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. This book centers on our hero, who is a very prominent chef within this very famous restaurant, and his job is very demanding. So it's a very difficult thing for him to find balance within his personal life because he has a daughter, and his daughter has just recently lost her mother. So he really wants to step up within the father role. At the same time, his career has really taken off as a chef, so he kind of needs to find a balance of how do I balance my career with taking care of my child. So he hires a full-time nanny to help him out. And the romance is between himself and the nanny. So it's a nanny romance. At the same time, there is this secret identity situation going on because the heroine used to have an OnlyFans, and they actually knew each other from that point within her career. But obviously they didn't know of each other because they hid themselves from one another. So they really were conversing together, and he was seeing her but with a mask. So they didn't know of each other in that respect, but they definitely had a history together. So the secret identity situation is a very interesting aspect within the book. At the same time, we definitely have a foodie situation going on, not only because he is a chef, but because he has a daughter who is very much a very regular child who wouldn't want to eat the kind of food that he prepares at the restaurant. She just wants simple food. She wants like breakfast foods for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like pancakes and waffles and stuff like that. And for him, it's very difficult to make those things, believe it or not. So the nanny is someone who just introduces comfort food within the home, and I really like that within the book. So yeah, I really like this one, and I definitely would recommend it. The last romance I'm going to recommend is actually a Christmas one. So if you want to just note it down for your TBR for next Christmas, or maybe if you like reading Christmas romances outside of the Christmas period, this one is going to be it for you. The book is by N.R. Walker and it's called The Christmas Wish List. The book centers on, it's actually a male romance, by the way. It centers on a hero who owns a B&B somewhere in a small town, I think like in Montana. And then he very desperately needs a chef to come help out with the seasonal like Christmas rush. So he hires this chef who is actually an Aussie expat who is moving around from town to town. He very much is not someone who is very stable to like stay at one place, but at the same time he very much wants to spend Christmas at this B&B. It's like a dream scenario for him because it's a very picturesque small town, and basically the two of them fall into lust and like already when they kind of see each other. The B&B owner is a grump, the chef is a sunshiny character, one of them is a single dad, so we've got the kids coming around Christmas, and it's a very Christmassy, very cozy read. We definitely get a lot of cooking within this book where they're preparing for like the B&B getting their guests for Christmas and also the kids coming around. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's a spicy good time as well. So yeah, you can definitely add this one for your Christmas TBR. So you notice that within a year time, I read quite a few foodie romances, and I think next year I'll possibly have a new one to film for you because I just gravitate towards these kinds of stories. If I see a book that features some kind of like a restaurant, some kind of a cook, chef, whatever, I want to read it. I absolutely love these kinds of stories, maybe because I love food so much. Please recommend any books that you may have for me that feature a foodie trope that I haven't yet recommended on my channel. I really want to read as many as I can. And please let me know if you've loved any of the books that I mentioned as well. I hope to see you very soon in the next one. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care and bye-bye.